Hey, welcome back to another PHP e-commerce app video. We've done through 6 different videos now to talk about what Milestone 2 is going to look like. Number 7 is what we're going to check out now, which is a little more complicated. The Autoloader, and we're going to look in depth at the code. So let's take a look at a class here like Person Search Handler. Every time that we have a reference to a class in our code, we're going to need to include the Autoloader. So you can see User Business Service is a class, and we've just created a new instance of it. And so to be able to reference that, we're going to have to load it. So you could require the class up here, or we're going to just use this generic Autoloader. Now let's see what Autoloader has inside. So Autoloader looks like this here. We're going to use the previous example and modify it a bit. So in previous tutorials we had an autoloader that was in the exact same folder as all of the other files. However, it's more complicated as soon as we start creating subfolders. So what I need to do first, according to the comments, is we're going to take a look at 2 different paths. We're going to look at the location of the autoloader and then also the file that called the autoloader, and we'll figure out what differences there are between those 2 levels. So you can see in my code that I am using a method called Substring, and we're taking one string and slipping out or cutting out part of the other. So Substring, let's see what that looks like in the manual. So here is the php.net official documentation, and let's scroll down until we come to an example that makes sense here. Let's see, looks like this would make an example here. Example 3, basic substring usage. So what we do is we put in 2 parameters to the function. So the first is the main large string, and then we want to say tell me or give me back everything that starts at position 1 and onward. So you can see that position 1 is the letter B, and so it says you will return B, C, D, E, and F. You can also put a range of data in a substring, so we could get square 1 through 3, which would be 3 letters, and you can do negatives. So we're only going to do the simple one to begin with. So you can see what I've set up here. I've got 2 strings. So the get working directory is the long directory of where the autoloader is. And then the next is the directory dir, it's a super global variable, and that variable tells me which file called the autoloader. So just so that it becomes clear of what this looks like, let's echo out some of these details. So I'm going to type in 3 lines that will echo these variables out to the web page. First of all, I'm going to echo out the get current working directory. Then I'm going to echo out the super global variable called underscore underscore dir double underscore, and that will show me where the file was called from. And then I'm subtracting one from the other, and so the variable called last directories is supposed to be a substring of the last 2. So let's see what that looks like when we run it. So I'm going to go back into my people search now and do a search. You can see that I have some information now on the screen that I didn't have before. So in the search, it's looking for a certain class, probably the user's class. And so you can see it was called, the current working directory was called from the handlers folder. And the working directory of the autoloader is this just called Milestone 2. So the difference between the 2 directories is this here. Those are called the last directories. And so a little bit of math goes on now after we've calculated the difference between these 2 directories. So now after I've figured out the difference between these directories, I want to know the number of slashes or the number of depths of folders there are difference between these. So what I do is I do a substring count. And in this last directory's variable, I'm looking for the number of slashes. So in this case, there should be 2. So let's echo that out and see what happens. Okay, so we should see a number 2 printed because of this line here. I'm going to come back here and refresh. So you can see it does say that there is a 2-folder difference now between these two. So it found a slash and a slash and tells me that there's a difference of 2 between these two locations. The reason why that's important is because when we come down looking for where to include these folders, I am going to be using a loop to be checking from 0 to the number of directories difference, and then I'm going to do a up search or an up movement of a folder. So it is going to do some math here that will calculate the right file, and when we finally get done, we can include the class. Now, I understand that this is kind of complicated math, and if all you do is copy the code line for line and you use it, just understand that it works. It will include your classes if you have the autoloader in the right place. So the autoloader has to be in the root folder right under Milestone 2, and then the rest of these work fine. You notice the directories where the program is searching for classes is listed here. So directories is something you have to manually put in. So the reason why I have this list is because I know that all of my classes sit in these folders, either business service or business service model, database, presentation, presentation handlers, presentation views, and utility. So you can see I've just copied the file names from these various folders here. So if you spell something here wrong or you leave out one of these, you're probably going to get some errors. But anyway, pause the video, copy the code here, and put it in Autoloader, and you should have success.